All right, welcome back. Welcome back. I don't quite understand what actually happened with the screen before. StreamYard does some weird stuff, and this is actually a brand new laptop. So yeah, I don't quite understand. Anyways, guys, we're going to continue on from where we were. I do apologize. Anyways, this is Crypto Jeb for the people who were not on the stream before. This is Crypto Jeb, and he is explaining why you should, and he's an altcoiner, and he's explaining why you should not be sitting in altcoins and why you should be in Bitcoin.
And you 2/3 of your portfolio didn't do much. The people that have money buy Bitcoin, and they mainly buy Bitcoin because they're fine with a 10x in the next 10 years. Because they understand a very important point, and this is kind of the crux of the whole video. You need to stop chasing 100x's with no money. You need to start chasing 10x's with money. There are two sides to the equation of being an investor.
I just want to stop right there and explain. So something that I definitely went through when I was shitcoining, right, is because you have no real conviction, right? Like you don't like whether you're being honest with yourself or not. I think it's almost irrelevant. But essentially, we create these mental gymnastics, or we do these mental gymnastics in order to justify for ourselves why we think A is better than B, or why C is going to perform better than D, and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, if we're just being honest, right? If we're just being honest with ourselves, then we can say, hey, I don't have any conviction. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I am just placing bets. Okay, like that's the honest, to me anyways, that is the honest truth. Anyways, let's continue.
How much you invest and what your return is. A lot of people that are looking at the next meme coin, don't get me wrong, if you found Pepe early, of course I think it's going to blow up. I'm not saying don't play the alt game. That's why I don't identify as a Bitcoin maximalist, because you can find a good altcoin and get some insider information. You know it's going to.
Okay. You can find a good altcoin. You can get some insider information. In all fairness, that's actually like the few people that you may know that were not insiders in an altcoin that actually made their 10,000 X's or their 5,000 X's or whatever, that was luck. Okay. Like all that was, hey, that person got very lucky. But the goal of those tokens, okay, is to enrich the insiders. That's all. So those are the people that are actually making the money, right? Because they are taking your Bitcoin or your cash, right? Your fiat, and they are giving you this worthless token that they've created out of nothing.
1000x, why not pull the trigger? Duh. But for the broad base of your portfolio, why try and find the next perfect altcoin when we've already got the perfect form of money, which is Bitcoin? At the end of the day,
it's funny because I always pretend the shitcoiners don't understand Bitcoin. This guy does. He does. But again, right? He's just hedging his bets too. It's so funny. We're such, anyways, humans are funny.
A lot of people that are investing in altcoins are investing in altcoins because they don't have any money. They have $1,000. They have $2,000. They have $500. They have $5,000. They have $10,000. And what they really need to do is they need to get their life figured out. They need to get up earlier. They need to eat better. They need to dress nicely at work. They need to get a promotion. They need to get out of consumer debt. They need to stop eating out. They need to have some freaking money. And the thing I want to say to a lot of you guys that are all in on altcoins, I see this all the time. You are more interested in getting a 20x instead of a 10x than you are in getting a 10x and being really good at making money. You need to go find a way to make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. You need to find a way to get a promotion and go from $80,000 a year to $120,000 a year. You need to find.
This is actually good advice. And I the reason why I say that, of course, is because I did something like that as well, right? For the people who know me, you know that my background is in technical support. That's where I come from. My original my education is in network administration, but then of course, when I was in school, when I got out of school, we had 9/11 happen. And for the people who were getting out of school when 9/11 happened, of course, it was an absolute tragedy. For the people who, also for the people who were looking for jobs in the tech sector, we got destroyed. a lot of our, at least in my case, I was supposed to go work for Bombardier, and they had essentially, after 9/11 happened, they took away all of their new student grants and internships and everything. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy time, and I had to figure out how to create my own field of opportunity, right? And this was something that I learned, is that it doesn't matter whether you're working for somebody else or you're working for yourself or whatever it is, you're always working for yourself, right? Like the job is not like your identity. The job is a tool that you use in order to accumulate money, in order to deploy those funds to better, in order to better your life. So when I was at my job, I sat there and I was like, okay, I'm not a good gambler, and I'm not good at picking stocks, but what I can do is I can find things that are missing in my workplace, and I can then add those things. This is where I can add value. So I started doing projects that were important to me, and then all of a sudden, right, the management starts to pay attention, and they're like, hey, this person is self-driven. And then all of a sudden, they start to give you more responsibility. Long story long, I worked my way up from the bottom tier of technical support to being the manager of the highest tier of technical support. And I did this in 5 years. Okay. So in less than a decade, I more than 5 or 7x'd my salary. And I also made sure that I was living within my means, so that I was saving as much as possible. I get it, right? Like, that's not all that fun when you pay attention to the marketing, right? Because when you pay attention to the marketing, you see what you're being sold on TV, right? You see like the person who did well in school, who now has this cushy job, who decides they're going to buy themselves the Volvo XC70, because it shows the the amount of money that they earn. Like, that's what this is. It's just virtue signaling, Oh, let's see. Yeah, what do you got to say here? Not on board with that. A job is literal slavery. There we go. Thanks to Bitcoin, all options as soon as I was earning here. Let's see here. What you got to say? As soon as I earned it, profits with my own coins, that's when I retired. Hey man, good for you. And that's totally fine. I don't disagree that a job is slavery, but at the same time, a job is going to be what you make it. So if you show up every single day and you just grind the bare minimum, you can't expect that someone is going to provide for you an outsized return. I've never seen a person give the bare minimum and get anything of value in return. Anyways, that's right. This is why there's different strokes for different folks.
Find a way to get out of consumer debt so you're not spending $1,000 a month on your car payment. Sell that crap, buy a car that's going to actually get you from point A to point B, and dump the rest into Bitcoin. My biggest point to people that are mostly in altcoins, and I've been saying this kind of treading around it, but I'm just going to be very upfront about it at this point, because I'm really at the point where I don't care if I offend you. I'm going to tell you what I think is true, whether you like it or not. If you're dancing around in altcoins, it's most likely because you're trying to outperform Bitcoin. 90% of the time you will fail. There is that one time that you might succeed. I tell this to traders. 10% of you guys are going to make a boatload of money doing trading and leverage trading. The other 90% of you would have been better off if you just held Bitcoin. Thinking you can outperform Bitcoin makes you one of two kinds of people. Either one, you're prideful and arrogant and a fool and ignorant, and you're going to regret it. That's 9 out of 10 of people that think they can outperform Bitcoin. And the other 1 out of 10 of you that think you can outperform Bitcoin actually will. Because you're a freaking great trader, or you do have insider information on some altcoin. 1 out of 10 of you will outperform.
I just want to point out, many people think that they are that one person, okay? Now just to keep that in the back of your mind, right? Like, oftentimes there's people that have zero experience, but they think they're going to be the outlier. Spoiler alert, you are most likely not going to be the outlier. Yeah, exactly. Bunny, you hit the nail on the head. It is so difficult. And honestly, if you do outperform Bitcoin, it is totally a fluke. The reality is that the majority of us do not have the time or the inclination to spend learning about all of these different chart patterns and stuff like that. You don't even know if you're going to be any good at it. And then all of a sudden, you've got to go and pick from 2 million altcoins which one is going to be the next 10,000x or whatever the hell it is. Like, that's, I got to be honest with you, that is a lot of work when I could just be simply living within my means, saving my money, and accumulating Bitcoin. I don't know. It just simple works. Simple works. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Bitcoin. And 9 out of 10 of you that try will fail.
Okay, yeah, sorry guys, I got to pause it again because Jukuter here is definitely he's saying some good stuff. That's steep, more like yes, exactly, right? I also agree with you for this, 100%. Okay, 100%. Like it's the fact he's saying 1 out of 10. You know what that tells the average person? So there's a chance. Like no, there really isn't that much of a chance. Your odds are much worse than that. So yeah, hit the nail on the head.
And you will regret it. Buying Bitcoin is one of the greatest financial decisions you will ever make. And you are doing the classic mistake of a perfectionist of sacrificing good for great. In this case, you're sacrificing great for perfect. And whereas you could have just put your money in Bitcoin, forgotten about it for 10 years, woken up and been a millionaire, instead, you're trying to fiddle around to pick the right altcoin, and it might take you 5 years before you figure out how to pick them. At which point in time you could have 7x'd your money in Bitcoin, and you're nowhere. This is a hard truth that some of you won't want to swallow. I will get a lot of flack for this in the comments, especially considering the timing, since Bitcoin dominance is breaking bearish out of the rising wedge, and that could mean that we're about to go into an alt season, considering we're leading into the last part of the cycle and alt season is probably about to come. I get it. If you can pick it right, fine. But just know, you got a 1 in 10 chance of beating Bitcoin. You got a 1 in 10 chance. If you are actually that good, go for it. If you have no idea what you're doing and you got to be honest about your capabilities, don't play that game. Stick with Bitcoin.
Okay. So obviously I totally agree with this. I think that hopefully this helped, right, for the altcoiners that do, because I know when I first came into the space, right, I would pay attention to Bitcoin only channels, and then I would also pay attention to terrible altcoin channels. And I think that, quite possibly, this type of content, at least it helps a person who is thinking that they are a little bit more skilled than they really are at buying shitcoins. Maybe hearing it from somebody who actively shills shitcoins, actively holds 10% of their portfolio in shitcoins, is telling you why you are not going to beat Bitcoin. And, for some perspective, what he said there at the end, right, is like, you could have just slept for 10 years and become a multimillionaire, right? You could have just not did anything with your Bitcoin, just simply held it and you'd be a multimillionaire. I mean, I can say this from my own experience. When I got into the space, I lost several thousands of dollars in the span of less than 2 years. And I could have taken that same money, just bought Bitcoin and did nothing. And I would have, the 2017 cycle from 1,000 to 20K, 20x. And I understand, right? I understand, people are going to come back and say, well, it's diminished returns. It's diminished returns now. That's not the point. Okay. Don't pay attention so much to the percentage, so much as you pay attention to the increase in your purchasing power. Like, indeed, 1 million to 2 million is only 100%, but think about the nominal value of the purchasing power that changes from 1 to 2 million, from 100K to 200K. Like, it's not the same thing. Okay. It's not the same thing as your shitcoin going from, 10 sats to 20 sats. Anyways. Yeah, guys, I thought that this was a bit of a change, right? We've been talking a lot about the op return stuff, and it's just now, at least the op return stuff is more or less kind of so to speak, kind of like dead and in the water. I know that people are still going to be upset about it, but now I see more and more people talking again back about CTV and, you know, possibly getting L enhance in there. And so, yeah, you know, finally, I think we're beyond that point, but I did want to switch it up today and show you guys something from an altcoiner that's telling you, hey guys, you know, like I'm an altcoiner and I'm telling you that you're not going to beat Bitcoin. And the funny part is, some of you think you're still going to beat Bitcoin. Okay. And it's okay, because wrecked was my teacher. Okay. I got super freaking wrecked. Almost all of my savings were gone in 2017 because I was convinced that based on my technical abilities, right, and my experience in buying equities, that I could 100% find the next Bitcoin, because I had created this false dichotomy about what Bitcoin was, and essentially how it was so similar to equities, and I wrecked myself. I wrecked myself by having conviction in something I did not understand at all. And all I had to do was just simply learn about Bitcoin, buy and hold Bitcoin, and accumulate. That's all. That's all that had to be done. All right, let's see. Let's see what's back in the comments over here. Opportune debate was stupid. Agreed. Agreed. Bitsy Ross. Opportune debate was stupid. Removing the limit, stupid. Agreed. Expecting it to be used, stupid. Agreed. Freaking out about it, also stupid. Nailed it. Nailed it. Yeah, it's you know, I've been saying it's a nothing burger. I know that people don't agree with that. But the reality is that opportune stuff just doesn't affect consensus. And to me, that's really all that matters. That doesn't affect the hard cap. You know, I came here for the 21 million over infinity, right? So maybe it matters on why you came to Bitcoin. You know, that there's some people that are buying the narrative that, well, Bitcoin doesn't, you know, if we don't do all of this stuff, then you're not going to be able to bring all this economic activity to Bitcoin. So if all of this economic activity is just so important, why isn't Ethereum number one? Why aren't we all just hodling Ethereum? Why aren't we all hodling Solana? Right? It's all this expressive language and all this crap that you can do with it. Right? Why aren't we holding on to that? It doesn't matter. It's just a circus. That stuff is just a circus. Anyways, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I hope you have a great one. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.